Hey everyone, thank you for coming. Each time I learn more and more about this program, but it's probably good it didn't go immediately to the next scene because I probably should explain it. We are doing April 1972, and I do research other than just looking at the LP news before we get started. And wow, hold on, something went wrong here. A lot happened in April 1972, so this is like fascinating. It's a trip through all kinds of history. So I did this little montage of just some things that were going on, and a song that was in the minds of at least David Nolan at that time. So let me see if I could get this playing. Please bear with me.
18, 17, guidance release, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. We have ignition sequence start. The engine's now building up to 7.7 million pounds of thrust. We have a launch commit and we have a liftoff. The swing arms moving back. The Saturn V lifting off the alpha pad, building up thrust. We've cleared the tower.
If the United States betrays the millions of people who have relied on us in Vietnam, the President of the United States, whoever he is, will not deserve nor receive the respect which is essential if the United States is to continue to play the great role we are destined to play of helping to build a new structure of peace in the world. It would amount to a renunciation of our morality, an abdication of our leadership among nations, and an invitation for the mighty to prey upon the weak.
Now, this
all
obviously
around the world.
is Nixon
It
addressing
would be
about Vietnam.
to deny peace the chance peace deserves to have.
Look how sweaty he is. Ugh.
We shall never do. My fellow Americans, let us therefore unite as a nation in a firm and wise policy of real peace. Not the peace of surrender, but peace with honor. Not just peace in our time, but peace for generations to come. Thank you, and good night.
Teaches me to say that I'm figuring things out. Yes, Julian, I also love the conspiracy theories about the moon landing. And, not to diss anyone who believes them. I'm not a conspiracy person, believe kind of person, but I like hearing about them. One day we'll have to do a conspiracy theory show because there's one conspiracy theory I believe in. So if you want to share in chat any that you might believe in, I'd love to hear it. Again, no shade, no shade. I'm just a very skeptical person, but I'll let y'all know that the one I believe in is that TWA 800 was brought down by a United States missile. I've watched all the programs that try to explain it a different way. I don't buy it. I think it was accidentally brought down by us, and we don't want to admit it. Don't think it was anything. I think it was nefarious after the fact, the cover up, but I don't think the actual accident was nefarious. I think it was an accident. There's just too many eyewitnesses that saw a missile go into this thing, and I think the government believed that it would cause big panic in the airline. This is before 9/11 in the airline industry. If they knew that there was a capability off the shore of New York for a air carrier to air missile to take down the plane. The Kennedy one, I haven't studied enough, so I can't say I disbelieve it. I don't know enough about it. I can tell you some things I studied about it, though, that I think have been disproven, where I'm going to explain this wrong because it's been a while, but some people I know think there were multiple shooters, and they said that the trajectory of the bullet couldn't have just come from the one window in the, was it the bookstore, the library? And I've watched a few ballistics breakdowns where I do think it was just from there, or at least it was possible it was just from there. But the thing I find fascinating with the Kennedy thing is that lady who's on the, what's that guy's name? Pruder? What was the one little home movie tape? The lady who had like the babushka on, that they can't find her. Like they never found out who this lady was. So, you know, maybe you guys have seen that. As you can see, I've watched some of it, but I really need to look into that some more. But TWA 800 is my famous one. I don't buy into any of the 9/11 conspiracy theories. If any of you guys do, again, no shade. I've looked into that a lot. And I don't buy that. But okay, we're going to go now to the past, back to the past instead of back to the future, where we have LP News, April 1972. A couple weeks ago, we did March 1972. And I'm going to be doing a bunch of these in November because the whole idea was at the beginning of the month, we would deal with that month is issue, and throughout the month expand upon it. Obviously, with Corona and all the drama that happened in the LP with the conventions and all of that, I got behind. So I'm going to catch up to November, hopefully November. So we still have April, May, June, July. I'm going to be cramming a bunch of these in, but I also don't want to short shrift them. So maybe I'll take 2 months to catch up, you know, do over November and December. But just wanted to let you know. Yeah, I knew it was a book something, David, but I just wanted to let you know why I'm doing these so close together and why my months are a little bit off. Zapruder, that's it. I knew it was something Uder, but yeah, the Zapruder film. There was that lady and she's wearing the head covering, and it's so odd. Like everyone who was there has pretty much identified themselves and is like almost, I don't want to say proud of the thing that they were there, but it's like part of their life story. You know, they were like, oh, I'm on the Zapruder film. I was there. I saw it. This lady, they've never, ever tracked her down. It's just, I don't know. I find that really, really strange. I think we should do some shows going through the Kennedy thing if you guys would like that, because I would like to learn more about it. If I did shows on it, that would help. Okay, here we go. So like we've done in past episodes, I've got my hard copy. This is an original hard copy, not a photocopy that was in the party records. And we're basically going to read through it. You've got it up on the screen. I've got it right before me, and we're going to talk about it. And there are some super cool things in here. So, interesting. I never noticed this, even though I've read this a million times. National Conference reset for June 15th through 18th. I haven't read anywhere where it was set to begin with to be reset. We just did March, and it didn't mention that it was set. Now between March and April, it got reset. Julian, that's not off topic. It's history, right? I don't know what happened with Nancy Lord, but I'm sure we'll come across that as we start going through this LP News. She was, for those who don't know, if my memory serves me correctly, and Julian can correct me if I'm wrong, was Andre Maru's running mate. And yeah, I haven't really seen anything recent about her. But for a while there, people were saying what happened to Jo Jorgensen, right? And then she comes back up. To me, seemed somewhat out of the blue. But I don't know, maybe she's been active, was in her affiliate the whole time. But that was like a blast from the past when Jo Jorgensen came back up. All right, so National Conference reset for June. If anyone knows about it being set for a different time, I don't know. 150 LP members expected to attend. There's a really funny, was it The Onion? I think it was The Onion who was spoofing libertarian conventions. Maybe in a bonus episode, I'll bring that up because it was hilarious. Any of you guys who want to check those dates you're talking about, whether you said somebody said 1992, someone said 1998, go right to Lpedia, and you can check that out. All right, so 150 LP members expected to attend. I don't know how many actually attended, but we will find out as we go through these newsletters. So imagine the leading activists in the libertarian movement all getting together to plan the first concerted large-scale attack on the bankrupt statist ideology that has stultified social and economic progress in America for the past 60 years. We talked about this last time, the words that they used then. We just don't use these words now. We dumb everything down. Stultified. That's not a word you hear every day. That's a $10 word. Imagine the synthesis of the best elements of the left and right into a single political movement. Imagine the first truly new social and political movement in over a century, emerging from its cocoon and bursting forth like a jewel-bright butterfly in a world of grays and browns. David was waxing poetic when he wrote this one, huh? It's going to happen in Denver, Colorado. Yay, Colorado. Denver, Colorado, June 15th through 18th, 1972, at the first National Conference of Libertarian Political Activists. They didn't call it the convention. That's interesting. And you can be part of it. There will be those who say we cannot change the world, that surrender or retreat or boycotting the real world is more rational and honorable than taking action against our oppressors. I really liked the way they were to the point then. We pussyfoot around shit today. Anyway, those are the neutralizers who mouth freedom words while promoting servility and cop-outism. David had no patience at that time for the libertarians who refused to get involved in the political system. I have much more patience because I understand their logic. I just don't agree. But he was very hostile towards that group at this time. But I know why, because they were very hostile to the LP. So it was basically giving as good as you get, I guess. And there will be others who say that it is too late for political action, urging us toward revolution and sabotage. The two aren't mutually exclusive, are they? These people only serve to give the rulers an excuse to clamp down even harder. Ignore them. We can act peacefully within the political system to save our freedom, and we will. 50 years later. Makes me tired just thinking about it. The first National Conference of Libertarian Political Activists will last 4 days. In those 4 days, we will draft a platform, drop strategies, choose candidates, and reinforce each other's enthusiasm for the biggest undertaking in the history of the libertarian movement. An undertaking which will enable us to carry our message to more people than we have ever reached before. Now, I've had the blessing of being able to meet quite a few people, considering how long ago this was, that were at this 1972 convention. And most of you will know D. Frank Robinson, who's all over Facebook, who's one of the party founders. I think it's on Lpedia, but he drew a little sketch of the room layout because he has I have the recordings that he gave me copies of, and we might play some portions of it in a bonus of the convention. But he drew a little diagram for me of where the recording machine was at, so I would understand why the recording was so bad. Okay. If it is humanly possible for you to be there, you should be. The registration fee has been set at $25 with a $5 discount, which conventions were still $25. But that was probably a lot of money for then. If you pre-register by May 31st. This fee covers the cost of the conference facilities, plus 2 large brunch-style breakfasts. Another $50 will cover your remaining meals and room expenses. Total, $75 to be part of the most important and exciting libertarian event of the year, perhaps of the decade. Now, for 1972, $75, I'm sure, was a lot of money. I'm trying to remember where this convention was. We'll get into this. It was at the Brown Palace in Denver. Well, we'll find that out soon enough. Okay. Continuing. The conference will be open to all members of all LP organizations, local, state, and national. So recruit a couple of libertarian friends and make it to Denver. A group of 4 can drive here for less than $25 each from anywhere in the United States. Oh, that ain't true anymore. You can barely get out of a state for $25. Make it for the whole 4 days if possible. If you can't do that, at least be there for the Friday evening Libertarian libation. That sounds like fun. And the Saturday and Sunday sessions. But make it. A complete conference schedule, information on accommodations, and reservation forms are enclosed. The rest is up to you. I do not have those, at least not with this newsletter. But now that I see that, I think I may actually have these forms that Paul Grant, I think that's who it was. If Wayne is still in chat, he'll remember. It was that former LP chair that showed up at one of our Douglas County meetings. He had given me some early stuff, and I believe at least a reservation form was in there. If I have it, I'll put it up in another episode. Excuse me. I swallowed that soda too fast. All right. Next headline. John Ziegler, Inc. Does that name mean anything to anybody? It doesn't to me, but apparently it was an impressive name at the time. To handle LP's advertising campaign. It is our extreme good fortune to announce that John Ziegler, president of John Ziegler, Inc., has offered his agency's services to the Libertarian Party for the coming campaign. John Ziegler, Inc. specializes in cause and environmental advertising, and their ads have appeared in numerous national publications. You may have seen their ads urging repeal of the draft and abortion laws, or others promoting organizations dedicated to protecting the environment. One thing you really have to get your head around to understand a lot of what was going on at this time and a lot of the impetus for the formation of the party was the draft. You know, those of us who weren't old enough then, or a lot of the people who might even be listening to us weren't even born then, I don't think we can fully grok how important and how traumatic that was. But the draft was still going on. And that Nixon address that I cropped out the ending part, in the beginning of it, he was talking about how the draft was getting cut back. But just imagine living in that dread if you were a young man at that time, or even parents of a son of that age, where getting the mail must have given you PTSD. I can't even imagine that letter coming in or the government claiming ownership of you or of your son or of your brother. I mean, how fucking disgusting. Can you even imagine that? I can barely imagine it, and I get sick to my stomach now, 50 years removed, thinking of it. You know, you're a young man trying to plan your life, and the next thing, the government's sending you off to Vietnam probably to die because they owned you. Gross. Mr. Ziegler is a staunch libertarian and, as such, turned down opportunities to handle ad campaigns of two of this year's presidential aspirants. Not sure how to pronounce that. I've read the word. And I'm going to see if I can get this up on the screen here. So David Davis said, remember, Nixon ended the draft January 73. I don't know, but we'll find that out, I guess, in episodes. So thank you for sharing that. Oh, I want to show you something I got, because we'll be experimenting with this. Check this out. Those of you into YouTube stuff or tech of this kind will be excited. Let me see if I can pull this up. Can you see? I got a Stream Deck. This thing's pretty badass, but I'm still learning how to use it. So it's got like hotkeys for my program. But I need a different stand that will push it up more. So let me see if my hide comment. Yay, look, it worked. Let's continue. His creative ability, extensive contacts with persons of influence in the national media, and firm dedication to the ideals of individual liberty make him an invaluable ally. I see Julian. Julian likes my effects. I've got all kinds of them. Oh, my goodness. And all libertarians owe him a tremendous vote of thanks. Progress report. Yay. As of the time this newsletter reaches you, LP membership should have reached the 500 mark. I mean, that's fantastic. They're only, they started in December, so 5 months old. Oh, duh, it's newsletter number 5. I could have not even had tried to count that. Counting both state and national members. We now have members in 38 states, plus the District of Columbia, and have state chairmen in 10 states. Over 15,000 pieces of LP literature have been distributed, including 3,500 copies of the temporary platform. I should remember to put a link in the show notes. If I don't, maybe when I re-edit this down, I'll put it, down here. But I did a whole episode on the temporary platform, and I need to do some more on it because I was comparing from what it was then to what a platform is now, and I forgot about that. I need to pick that back up. But anyway, go check out that show. All right. Ads will appear in 5 publications in the next 30 days. The combined circulation of these 5 is 14,000, so we should get at least 300 to 400 new members from these ads alone. That is, that's very optimistic, because what's the normal return on investment for ads of this sort? I know for like email solicitations, 1% and you're doing good. So that's pretty optimistic. I need to get another heater for down here. Hey, Wayne, if you're listening, we need this little heater. Isn't working it. I'm like so cold, I'm shivering, and my nose starts running. So on the to-do list, another heater. All right, the UPI story we mentioned 2 issues ago. What is the UPI story they mentioned 2 issues ago? I should have looked that up. Anyone know what UPI stands for? I'll look that up and update you all in another show or put it in the show notes because I don't remember talking about a UPI story. Went out to papers all over the country on April 2nd. We're still getting phone calls 2 weeks later. We now expect to have 1,200 members by June. Let's see if they make it. All righty. If I did this right, I'll be able to scroll to the next page here. Yay! Okay, now things. United Press International. Thank you. You guys know all this stuff. It's fantastic. Thank you. Now, there's a lot of good information on this page. So, U.S. News and Playboy top the media poll. Human Events has highest reader ratio. All righty. I knew AP. I just didn't know UPI. Are they still around? Because I never hear that anymore. And I was communications director for LPCO, so I was very familiar with press and press releases. And I mean AP, everyone knew, but UPI, and I don't think I'd really seen that abbreviation even in the party records. So is that still around, David? If you get a chance, let me know. Last month, we asked you to tell us what magazines you read in order to get some idea of where we should advertise, in order to reach other libertarians and people who are likely to be sympathetic to libertarian ideas. Over 100 responses were received, which is pretty good considering they had 500 members. So they had 20% respond. But to simplify the analysis of results, we took the first 100. Julian says, as a high school student, I feel like I should be taking notes. If you want, but otherwise you'll always have these episodes. This is just for all of us to have fun learning LP history together. Okay. The 100 respondents named they got more than 100 responses. That is a really good return. Okay, thank you for that link, David. I'll check that out after the show. Alrighty. So the 100 respondents named a total of 144 different publications, but 84 of these were mentioned only one time, and only 21 were mentioned enough to merit study. The results on these 21 are shown below, but a few broad stroke results might be of interest. A total of 513 mentions were made, indicating that the average libertarian, if there is such a beast, reads about 5 publications, not counting movement magazines and daily newspapers. Of the 5, 1 is a weekly news magazine, 1 is a right-wing magazine, 1 is a business or financial publication, and 2 are special interest publications. I wonder what they categorize Playboy as. Probably special interest. It's for the articles. It's definitely for the articles. It's not for the pictures. Get your mind out of the gutter. The top 20. Oh, hold on. Okay, I'm getting my sound effects ready when we deal with Playboy. Okay. The top 21 accounted for 308 of the 513 mentions. They are listed in order of popularity immediately below. After each publication, there are 3 figures. The first is the number of mentions received by that publication. The second is the approximate circulation of that publication in 100,000s. And third, and most important, is the ratio of responses per 100,000 of circulation. Okay, that is complicated, David Nolan. You did not have to make it that complicated. I just want to know how many people mentioned what. Okay, so the most popular publication read by libertarians in April of 1972 was U.S. News. I wonder, is that the same U.S. News and World Report of today? Or is that something different? So 31 out of 100 read that. The next one is Playboy. Are you surprised?
Boom, chicka, wow, wow.
31 libertarians also mentioned Playboy. Next one, almost close to Playboy, is Time with 30 mentions. Then Newsweek, I'm not going to say the numbers on each of them, we'll just go down. Then Human Events, National Review, that's the right-wing publication he mentioned. Barron's, Intellectual Digest, has anyone heard of that? Is that still around? I'm going to look for some old back issues of that. That sounds like it could be really interesting. TV Guide. I guess there were articles and stuff in TV Guide, right? I wouldn't think of that as something you read, but if I remember back to my childhood, there were articles in there. Reader's Digest, Business Week, Life, Wall Street Journal, National Observer. Isn't that also a right-wing publication? I could be confusing that with something else. Fortune, National Lampoon, American Opinion, the Freeman. Now, it's interesting they mentioned the Freeman because I thought up top here that they said they were going to exclude movement publications, which is why like Reason's not on here. And the Freeman is a libertarian publication. Analog, Road and Track, and Stereo Review. Oh my God, this is so 1970s. Not surprisingly, the 4 publications with the highest proportion of readers of libertarian inclination are the 4 conservative standards. Of these, Human Events appears to be the best bet for us. I've never heard of Human Events. Thus, we will run an ad in Human Events as soon as we raise enough money to pay for an ad that's large enough to tell our story, and also that's large enough to create an impression of strength. I guess we'll find out whether they actually ever ran that ad. A full-page ad in Human Events costs $900, which is very reasonable for a publication that reaches 90,000 people. A half-page ad costs $490, and a quarter page costs $265. Less than a quarter page would not be enough to do the job. Very curious as to whether they ever ran that. And has anyone here heard of Human Events? Let's see. Because we just plain don't have $900 to spare out of operating revenue, we're therefore asking every member to contribute whatever he or she can afford towards this project. Every little bit helps. $2 from each of you will pay for a full-page ad, and even $1 will help. If you can afford $5 or $10 or even $25, we would be extra appreciative, as larger amounts will offset the people who do not contribute. So please contribute whatever you can and indicate that the money is designed for the Human Events ad specifically. We will use whatever we get to buy as large an ad as it'll pay for. The money will not be diverted to any other use. We want to get the ad in by the 3rd week in May so as to get as many new members as possible before the national conference. So we need the money by May 1st. Send whatever you can afford today, even if it's $1. Looking beyond Human Events to other publications, our best bets appear to be Analog, which I doubt is still around, but I could be wrong, Barron's, Intellectual Digest, and the National Lampoon. If all goes according to plan, we will be able to start advertising one or more of these publications by the summer. The results of this survey have been turned over to our ad agency, John Ziegler, Inc., for further analysis, and they should have some recommendations and ad ideas for us within a month or so. We want to break out of the old conservative sphere into new territory, so we will not be advertising in any other right-wing publications beside Human Events. The four magazines above should enable us to reach new people. So, David Davis, I do think U.S. News is what is now U.S. News and World Report, but I could be wrong. All right, now here's really interesting, and we can see how the ideological demographics of the party have changed somewhat. So, platform poll shows most LP members are objectivists and isolationists. Now, very interesting here. Objectivism, as most of you know, and if you don't, that's the philosophy coined, founded, expounded, however you want to put it, by Ayn Rand. Hey, thank you for that link, David. You're just like, you're my assistant. I got distracted, ADHD. So Ayn Rand started objectivism. Now, Ayn Rand hated the Libertarian Party. So I don't know whether her hatred existed at this point or whether it's something that blossomed later. So most of the early LP were from Ayn Rand's movement. I do not know how many of those people stayed and whether they considered continued to consider themselves objectivists. If I take D. Frank Robinson as an example, I know he considered himself an objectivist at the time and then drifted away from that. And now D. Frank is an anarcho-capitalist, which I believe happened to a lot of the objectivists at that time, or they left because dear leader Ayn Rand, who was basically almost a cult figure at that time, if she didn't like the LP, a lot of people would just follow her lead. Also, the use of the term isolationist, that's something we don't use anymore and in fact actively frowned upon, preferring instead non-interventionist. But the two, whether we like it or not, are pretty functionally equivalent as far as I can tell. If someone here can give me at some point an argument as to there's some kind of difference between isolationists and non-interventionists, I'd love to hear it. But as far as I can tell, it's a distinction without a difference. So, all right. The ideological poll, which we conducted last month to serve as a guideline in putting the platform committee together, yielded the results below. The platform committee will be balanced accordingly. Wow, think of that, balancing the platform committee with the various factions. That doesn't happen anymore. What tends to happen now is a popularity contest on the LNC for their appointees, and each state is a little bit different, but I can tell you in Colorado, it was a popularity contest, not necessarily a qualifications contest, which you would hope the LP would be, but like all clubs, you know, that's how it goes. All right, so on civil liberties, 50% believed in minimal restrictions. I'm not sure what that meant, because I would think they would think no restrictions on civil liberties, but you don't know how people understood the question. Well, no restrictions was on there, 47%, so interesting. Undecided, 3%. Economics. This is really interesting. Considering how heavily the early party drew from the conservative movement, only 3% considered their economics conservative, while 72% considered it objectivist. I would say, for the time, there was a big overlap there, and objectivist economics is conservative economics. Stricter, like ultra-conservative, but still under the wing, I would think, of conservative economics. And then anarcho-capitalist, 25%. So a good quarter of the early party were anarcho-capitalists. Today, of the national membership, I would put that number between 5 and 10%. But of the very active people in the party, I would say it's still about 25%. About 25% of the LNC are anarcho-capitalists, myself included. Okay, foreign policy. Pacifist, 2%. Oh, I'd be part of that 2%. But that's not my foreign policy. That's my personal philosophy. I don't think nations can afford to be pacifists, unless the whole world was, but that's my personal religious conviction. Isolationist, 50%. Semi-isolationist, 35%. Containment, 4%. I have no freaking idea what that means. Rollback, 8%. And undecided, 1%. To ensure that all planks in the official platform will have strong support, a 2/3 vote will be required for approval on the floor. Planks will be reported out in order of degree of support. Unanimous first, etc. I should know this, but I'm drawing a complete blank. I'm so embarrassed. I'm drawing a blank on this, considering I was chair of the platform committee. But I'm old, okay. What was, it's 50% now to delete any plank. It's 2/3 to amend, and I think it is 2/3 to adopt a new plank. Not 50%. Let me see if I can look that up, because I hate drawing a blank on something I should know. I've only been National Platform Committee chair twice, but my mind is full of just too much useless information. So let's go to the bylaws. We're going to the national bylaws. And let's see what it says here. A platform plank may be deleted by a majority vote. New planks or amendments to existing planks require 2/3. Okay, I was correct. All righty. Next page is the political perspective. We always deal with this separately because it kind of moves beyond LP history and is dealing with the political climate. I just did the political perspective from the April 1972 where we got into Herbert Humphrey and the gassing that took place during both the Democratic and Republican conventions that were held in Miami, Florida. At that time, they were both held in the same city and around the same time, which I thought was really interesting. So let's just go to the back page, which is always this bits and pieces. At least for the first few years, that has been the format. All right. Political Action Manual coming out next month. I have a copy of this Political Action Manual. We will do a bonus episode on that. And I'll talk about that more in a minute. Okay. With next month's newsletter, all LP members will receive a copy of the new LP Political Action Manual. So I will do it in conjunction with the next, with the May newsletter. This concise, I don't think it was terribly concise, at least not by today's standard. This concise guidebook will cover every aspect of organizing for political action, from recruiting to PR to fundraising, and will be about 56 pages long. Yeah, in today's parlance, 56 pages is not concise because we have short attention spans. Non-members who wish to purchase a copy or members who want extra copies can order as many as they wish, $1.25 for one copy, so on and so forth. Actually, let me talk about this now, and I'll talk about it again at the end because I need to get better at this. Had a brain fart there for a minute. These bonus episodes, I'm either going to release early or some bonus episodes or solely on my Patreon page. Because, okay, what's at 8 o'clock now? Sometimes I'm doing these episodes at 2 in the morning. I have made a commitment, as you can tell, if you go look at my YouTube channel for the past couple months, to get out regular episodes. But consider my life. I'm a full-time paralegal, more than full-time. I probably work 50 to 60 hours a week. And I do the LP stuff. The national secretary job is full-time. Not paid, but it's a full-time volunteer position. I put in, on average, some weeks less, some weeks more, 40 hours a week for the party. And I'm married. My husband does like to see me every once in a while. Plus, just regular life and doing my historical work. It leaves very little time to do this sort of thing. So I am dedicating more time to doing this, hoping to get to a place where I have a user base of support so that maybe I can cut back on work hours because I'm getting support from this. It'll happen or it won't happen, right? But I see so many other channels out there with content that is able to do that, and there's nothing really like this. So if you can, I'm not good at fundraising for myself, but if you can, please consider becoming a patron. If you go to patreon.com and look up Pink Flame of Liberty, there's all levels and any amount is appreciated. And patrons, when I do get enough to make it so that I'm not just talking to one person, patrons will get either advance, they'll get episodes released ahead of time, the ones that I don't do live. They'll get some that are made just for them, or for at least a few months. I'll eventually release everything out in the wild. Or I've already committed because there's certain books that I am reading that I need to, and book reviews that I need to do. I'm doing those, at least initially, only on Patreon. So if you want to be part of this like book reading, community, you need to be one of my patrons. So please consider that. I did get a patron from last episode, and I'm creating a graphic to thank my patrons. So I'm saving that for then, but you know who you are. And pretty soon everyone will know too, unless you write me and say, don't mention my name. But you know who you are. Thank you. That was so encouraging. Now, done with the advertisement. Let's continue. It's very awkward for me to do that, by the way. Paul Lepanto, who we mentioned in the March LP news, and I can't remember, I think he was a state chair. So, excuse me, Paul Lepanto leads in the membership contest. With 6 weeks left in the membership recruiting contest, temporary executive committee member Paul Lepanto of New York is leading the pack with 57 points. This assures Paul of a minimum of $50 towards conference expenses and puts him well within hailing distance of the $100 first prize. If Paul can do this well, the rest of you can easily get at least 25 points and rip off $25. And student memberships are worth 1 point, regulars 2 points, sustaining 3 points, life members 25 points, and life-sustaining members 50 points. I believe 3 issues ago, we talked about what each of these memberships mean. So check out those episodes. Be sure to put your name on any membership applications you hand out to get credit. Okay, Ned Nolte. Do not know him. Anyone know Ned Nolte? Ned Nolte is LP's second life member. And speaking of life members, Ned Nolte of Lincoln, Nebraska, recently became our second life member. Many thanks, Ned. Send a clipping, get a buck. A number of members have been taking advantage of our offer to pay $1 for any newspaper clipping of a story that mentions the Libertarian Party. Keep your eyes open because you could be next. If you prefer, we'll send $2 worth of materials, your choice. Specify what you prefer. Now, right here, this title, 1984 by Spirit, will pay $2. If you have a copy of the 45 RPM record, 1984 by Spirit, we'll pay you $2 for it, assuming it's in good condition. If you don't have a copy, check your local record stores. We can't find a copy in Denver. That is at least a portion of the song that I played at the beginning of this episode. And perhaps before we close out, we'll listen to the whole thing or part of it. I'll probably get copyright struck, but I'll excise it out in the future if that's the case. But it's almost, I'd never heard this song before. Apparently it was very popular. It was very dystopian, and it almost has like a Yes, that band feel to the way the music is. It's kind of very technical. Okay. Bruce Brockway running for Congress. Bruce Brockway, an objectivist, is running for Congress in Minnesota. His literature asks voters the question, who owns your life? And suggests that if they think they should control their own destinies, they should vote for Bruce. For more information about Bruce and his campaign, or to contribute financial support, and then there's an address. I'm wondering if any of his literature is still around. Changing your address? If so, be sure to notify us. Alrighty. And then the political perspective continues on this page, which again will be its own episode. And we talked about last time about these 3 ways to get one of those pins. And damn it, I want one of these pins. So I told you I was going to do this. I looked up. If you see there, you can buy one for $4.95 from Frantonio Specialties in Warren, Rhode Island. I looked up Frantonio Specialties because I wondered if they were still around. And if they were still around, if they had the mold for this thing. They're not still around. And in fact, I went through the Secretary of State of Rhode Island. There's no record of this company. So when I did a Google search of them, they were also producing pins for like some fraternal society, and that's it. That's the only other mention of them other than these newsletters. So apparently it was a small company, or things that they did because, you know, we're dealing from the 70s, just haven't made it yet onto the internet. But that was a dead end so far. But in a few years, I'll look again because you never know what will end up appearing. But that would have been fantastic if they were still around and they still had the mold. Okay, so that's it for this one. Oh, Julianne, you'll get to see it. You know, YouTube, it saves it. You know how it goes. I never delete the live stream. I do edit it down and reissue it as a normal episode, but I also keep the live stream one up unless we get copyright struck because of the 1984 song. I will play again my beg, right? I guess that's what I'm calling it, for support. And I needed to get rid of this overlay and I can't figure out how to do it. So I'm not worried about it. Okay, high quality. Let me download this down here. I have two screens and I can never figure out where my mouse goes. I keep losing my mouse. So while I'm waiting for this to download again, please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't. I'm trying to qualify for YouTube monetization. I do have the minimum number of subscribers, though you get higher in the algorithm the more you have. And like the video and share it if you liked it. If you didn't like it, get lost. No, I'm just kidding. No, kind of just kidding. But anyway, it's downloaded. Again, please consider becoming a patron. I would super appreciate it. All right. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have an awesome night. And we will be doing bonus episodes and continuing to catch up to the current month. Thank you, everyone. Toodles.
You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe